Hey all, Rabbi Baruch Levi, Rabbi B of Soul Centered. I'm just going to get started in a moment once we get online and everything's set up. Give me a second. All right, so thank you for joining me. I am just double checking the technology. Yeah, we're good. We had a little problem on Saturday, but we are good. We are live on Facebook, YouTube, Periscope, I don't know, a couple others. So I am, again, Rabbi B, or just B, Executive Director, co-founder with my wife Ariella of Soul Centered. Soul Centered is a center for spirituality, meaning, and healing in the afternoon of life. Afternoon of life is Carl Jung's concept, but something that we are very familiar with and all of us go through, God willing. If we get to 40s, not a hard number, but around 40 years old and onwards, we start shifting from the morning to the afternoon. And so Ariella and I work with clients to coach them, to counsel them through the noon into the afternoon, and through the afternoon into the evening, the second half of life, which I believe absolutely unequivocally is the best part of life. It's the time of influence, true influence, and power, authentic power. Very different than the morning, which has its place, and thank God we went through it. Thank God not in it. Very happy to be in the afternoon of life. So want to talk to you today a little bit about a specific aspect of the afternoon of life and my program for it called Soul Uprising. I'll be talking a lot about it. But Soul Uprising is really what I believe in my experience and what I've studied in some great traditions, Kabbalah, Jungian, depth psychology, Dr. Viktor Frankl, logotherapy and height psychology, some great self-development movements out there, and a lot of influencers in my life. Soul is at the center of this journey in the afternoon of life. And you got to make the shift from self to soul. Morning is all about the self. Afternoon is all about the soul. And it's not just meditating and being mindful on the soul, which is lovely and important, but it's about an uprising. It's got to be something passionate and intense. It doesn't just happen on its own. Got to redirect the energies of the morning into the afternoon, go inwards and find this place of soul, because this soul within each and every one of us, my teacher, Dr. Frankl, calls it the noetic, is this place of wholeness. It's the place of our true self, our authentic self, according to Jung, our authentic self that is untainted by the morning, that is untouched by the T's of life, what I call the T's: transitions, tests, trials, traumas, tragedies. This place of soul is always pure, it's always untouched, and it's where we need to go to and get to in order to navigate the second half of our life. And so I'm going to be talking a lot about new goals, new rules, and new tools for the afternoon of life. I'm Amanda Clayman, so you joined us on Facebook. Excited to be connected to you and everybody else. And so today, in the afternoon of life, in this program, Soul Uprising, we are talking about your name. Because to me, this is the beginning point whenever I work with a client. We always start with concepts around the name. Not literal, well, I guess literally their name. What is the first thing you say to somebody at a cocktail party, or a potential client calls you, right? My name is B. What's your name? It's a far more profound question than we realize. What's your name? Right? Not just what do I call you? That's a starting point. But and not just the label that you wear, but who are you? I mean, it's interesting. If you look at spiritual texts like the Torah, the Bible, it's a search for the name, the divine name, right? Because when we're talking about the name, when we're asking somebody their name, we're asking somebody more than just what do I call you? We're asking you, who are you, right? I want to get to know you, or maybe you don't want to get to know them. You don't want to know their name. But if you want to be in a relationship, you have to know somebody's name. Have you ever had the experience, and I know you have, and I have, where you should know somebody's name, and you've kind of the window of has closed where you can actually ask them their name, and it's not too uncomfortable. It's almost disrespectful. It feels disrespectful to ask them their name, and yet it's even more disrespectful because you pretend that you know their name. And so it affects the relationship. How deep can you go with somebody if you don't know their name? Again, not just the letters, the appellation that they're called by, but something much deeper. I wrote a blog on this today, by the way. What's your name? Our name is those letters, B, Baruch. It's also the titles that we have: rabbi, doctor, lawyer, professor, politician, senator. Those are parts of our name, but also, mom and dad and brother and sister. Those are parts of our name. This is about our identity. The challenge becomes when we start believing that we are those pieces. They are pieces of us, but they are not the sum total of us. And when we start believing that that is who we are, then we are on a slippery slope that can result in ending up frankly, in hell. How much hurt and destruction, devastation has come when people in positions of power have started to believe that that's who they are. Right? Senators or clergy who abuse their power. It begins with really forgetting, maybe never even really knowing who they are and what that role is and their responsibility to that role, and that they're not the role, right? It's what they do. It's not who they are. I felt this pull when I was a synagogue rabbi to become the rabbi. Everybody around you treats you differently. They relate to you differently. Rabbi, minister, doctor, senator. You're in a position of power, and it's intoxicating to start to subscribe, to believe that is who I am. I am the rabbi. My wife would always remind me, you're not the rabbi. That's the role you're doing, but that's not who you are. Wayne Dyer, teacher of mine, I'm sure you know who he is, says to his wife, "You're not going to believe it, sweetheart. I'm on the bestseller list again." She's like, "No, you're not." It's like, "Yeah, no, really, I am." And he shows her the New York Times bestseller list, and she says, "You're not on the New York Times bestseller list." And he's adamant, "I am." And she says, "Wayne, sweetheart, your book is on the bestseller list, not you. Your book is. You wrote it, but you were a conduit, a vessel to bring those words down from a higher plane and place, put them into that book, get it out into the public realm. And yeah, it ascended onto the New York Times bestseller list. You didn't." I tell myself this story because I have two books that aren't remotely close to any bestseller list. So it's not me, it's the book. Seriously, this is a conversation about your name. What's your name? More than just the letters, more than just the ID in your wallet, but what are the roles that you take on that become you, that are you, until they're not, until those names are taken away or they're left behind. How many, especially men, have I counseled? Hey, Andrew, shalom to you, salam, namaste, peace. How many people have I counseled, especially men, somewhere retirement-ish age, which we've got to get a new name for that, retirement, call it re-inspirement, but around retirement age, and they retire, and they're a doctor, and they're a lawyer, and they're this, that, or the other, and then they lose themselves. They start to fall apart. Statistics are that they will die sooner when they retire than later because they've lost their purpose, they've lost their meaning, they've lost their name. And it's a hard thing when you are a professional and you're wanted because of your name, your title, and then you're no longer wanted. I had 2,000 congregants in Boston, Swampscott, Massachusetts, lovely human beings, but probably 99.9% of them ended up drifting away from it. It's nice to get reconnected here on Facebook, but at the end of the day, I wasn't the rabbi. another rabbi came along and doing a great job and fulfilling a great role, but he's not the rabbi, or she, whoever follows him, will not be the rabbi. He's a rabbi. I was a rabbi. They're a rabbi. It's very challenging to hold off that identity, to not become consumed with that identity. That's our name. How many people do I counsel who are in the empty nest period, who their children now are gone and they've defined themselves as dad or as mom for so long, almost exclusively, maybe exclusively, that when that identity changes, not only are they changing, but they're left empty, bereft, not knowing who they are and why they're here and what they're supposed to do because they've over-identified with mom or dad as their name. It's a part of our name, but it isn't our name. How many of us have taken on names that we don't like, right? Names that are, interestingly, right, it's one of the few things in our lives that we don't choose, at least not the first name. Maybe you're like me and you choose the second name, which I will talk about, but the first name, we're just given our name. And make no mistake about it, a name is real. A name is sometimes like a blueprint for who we become, or oftentimes a box, a container, keeping us feeling maybe trapped by a name. Our name, our last name, changing our name to somebody else's name, maybe hyphenating a name, or getting divorced and being stuck with a name that maybe you don't identify with or never did. Returning to a name that you left behind. What does that mean, to return to your name? Did it ever really leave you? Is it really yours? As Jews, most of our names are just made up and butchered and hodgepodged together at Ellis Island. There's all kinds of stories. Like my great-grandfather's last name was Paragal. And for this reason or that reason, it was changed to Perlman. Wasn't our family's name, which is why I ended up choosing Halevi. Because I wanted to take back a proactive and positive identity. That was my way of kind of reclaiming a name. What do you do when you have a name that's not comfortable for people? Baruch is not the easiest name in the world to live in Iowa, where I was for 4 years. So I ended up as B because it was much easier. What do you do when you have a name that feels isolating or alienating? And again, not just the titles and the identity card, the driver's license name, but the names that people put on you. Again, your parents, nicknames, hurtful names. How many of us have names that we were called in childhood on the playground that were horrible names? They weren't our names, but they became our names. Right? Mean names that I wish it was only children can throw around on the playground, and wounding names. That stupid saying, sticks and stones can break my bones, but words can never hurt me. Really? That is like the most ridiculous saying, along with many nursery rhymes actually, that we can share with a child. Sticks and stones can only break your bones. The bones will probably heal. Words can destroy you. Words are real. Words are things. Words are not nothing. Words are something. How many people do I counsel 20 years later, 50 years later, who are still working through hurtful, destructive words, hurtful, destructive names? Those names become limiting. Soren Kierkegaard says, once you label me, you negate me. Right? Hey, Justin. Once you label me, once you put a name on me, you limit me, right? You quantify me. You turn me into this when I am this. But that's what a name can do. We need names to function. It's very uncomfortable when you don't know somebody's name, but it's also important to remember that they are more than a name, and that we are more than a name, and that our name is complex, and that we don't have a name. We have many names. Great Jewish mystical teaching says we have the name that our parents gave us, and we have the name that other people give us, and we have the name that we choose. And you don't have to go out and be radical and frankly stupid and change your name like I did, because it's complicated. You can metaphorically and figuratively choose your own name. I do a lot of this work with clients, choosing a new name or an additional name. It doesn't have to be a replacement name. It can be literal, it can be figurative. But expanding your identity or maybe reclaiming your identity. Thinking back to Moses asking God, right? This almost idiotic question. The Israelites are going to ask me, what's your name? What am I supposed to tell them? What is he saying? He's saying that they're going to want to know that I know you, and I want to know you. I want to intimately understand you. And what is the divine's response? G-O-D is not God's name. G-O-D does not appear anywhere in the original text. It's English, of course. The original Hebrew, there's 72 names for God, but they're not the names of God. They're descriptions of God. What was God's response? Ehyeh asher ehyeh, he says to Moses, I am that I am, or I will be that I will be. I am is the name that the divine tells Moses. I am. You can't finish that sentence. It's a verb. I am, being. The I amness is the divine. It's unfolding. It's evolving. It's becoming. The moment you say, I am, fill in the blank, you've now put a box on it. You've quantified it. You've limited it. And in many ways, you've lost its name. What does the divine say? I am can't be quantified, can't be put into a box. The infinite can't be put into the finite, which is why the Kabbalists describe God as Or Ein Sof, unending light. Moses Maimonides says you can only describe what God is not. You can never describe what God is, because the moment you define the infinite, it's no longer the infinite. And you are a spark of the divine. You have this infinite within you. That is your name. I am is your name. It's my name. It's our name. We have to live in a world of names, of going to cocktail parties and introducing yourself. If you introduce yourself as I am, when the next time you're at a cocktail party, trust me, you'll have no friends, you'll get no dates, there'll be no fun. Nobody wants to get into an existential debate about your name at a cocktail party. They're just trying to get to know you. So give them your name or make up a name. But don't forget that that is not your name. That's a piece of who you are. That's maybe what you do, doctor, lawyer, parent, you name it. It's a piece of what you do. It is not all that you do. It is a part of your name. And so the journey through the afternoon of life is amazing, because we get to, for the first time, many of us in our lives, think about our names, reflect upon our names, challenge our names, challenge our identity, challenge our assumptions, really start to grapple with, who am I? And what am I doing? And why am I here? The second part of life, the afternoon of life, is calling out to us in so many ways. What's your name? And so the work I do and the work we're going to do is soul uprising. It's about unleashing her, us unleashing this profound, infinite peace that's of you, that's in you, that is you. And we're going to do it through new goals and new rules and new tools to help you discover your name, uncover your name. In many ways, just remember your name. And so that's this conversation on soul uprising, journey through the afternoon of life from anybody, but especially midlife and onwards, looking to live more passionately and purposefully and powerfully in the best years of our lives. If I've resonated a chord with you, shoot me an email, rabbib@mysoulcentered.org. If I've touched in any way a question that maybe you have, or a concern you might be thinking about, or a search that you are thinking about embarking upon, or a journey that you're already in, shoot me an email. Give me a shout. I would love to hear from you, love to get to know you, love to learn your name, not just the letters that are your name, but who you are and why you're here and what you're meant to do. And if I can work with you in that process, that would be an honor as well. And we can set a discovery session where we can talk about the work that we would do together in remembering who you are, remembering your name. So until the next time, and there will be a next time, check in often, mysoulcentered.org for upcoming classes and courses and groups and all kinds of experiences that Ariel and I are providing for anybody and everybody looking for spirituality, meaning, and healing, in the afternoon of life. Take care. Shalom, salam, namaste, peace.